Alright guys, in today's video we are talking about Ghost of Tsushima because we have some new and very interesting details about this game and what we can expect from it. Even though we got 18 minutes of raw gameplay in the latest State of Play live stream from Sony, there is a lot left that we still don't know about, and it seems that Sucker Punch actually came out here, did some interviews recently, and gave us a pretty good idea of, what's going into this game, just how big this game is, and how long we can expect to be playing this game for. Just some really interesting stuff that I think most of you who are excited for this game are going to be very interested in. Now, this is easily one of my most, if not my most anticipated game of 2020, and I was very impressed with what they showed off during the State of Play live stream, but I myself still have a lot of questions about this game. And I think Sucker Punch did a pretty good job in answering some of them here, and I will admit that they have served to just get me even more excited to play this game. So before we get into it, if you could do me a big favor, hit the like button if you are excited for Ghost of Tsushima or if you want to support the video, and make sure you hit the subscribe button as well so you don't miss any future content. But the first thing I do want to highlight here for just a moment is how apparently this Ghost of Tsushima themed State of Play was the most watched State of Play for Sony so far, racking up 1.5 million views in just 3 days since it premiered. If you compare that to the one that happened in September of 2019, where they featured a new trailer for The Last of Us Part 2, that racked up about 750,000 views. Now this is pretty significant because Sony's definitely looking at this as a huge success, and it gave some huge exposure to Ghost of Tsushima, and I think did a good job in getting people just that much more excited for it. But another reason why I think this is important to highlight is simply because I think this is what you can expect Sony to do with the future of State of Plays, where I think we're going to have those regular State of Plays, where you're going to have a mix of smaller games and then maybe at the end a trailer for a big game, whether it be third party or first party. But I think they may actually start to inject more State of Plays that are just dedicated to showing off their exclusive games, 15 to 20 minutes, just like they did here with Ghost of Tsushima, because if there's anything I gathered from all of this is that this is what people want to see, and there's been a very positive response to it. I know I really enjoyed it, so I hope we see more of this in the future. Just wanted to take a moment to highlight that. But the first thing I want to talk about here, this comes from an interview with the game director, Nate Fox. He was speaking to a Brazilian publication, Voxel, and he was talking about what exactly we can expect in terms of the length of the game. And when he was asked about it, he said it's a difficult question to answer because the world is a large space with a number of isolated side stories. We did several tests with people playing about 6.5 hours a day, and the results were very different. Many didn't finish the main story because they were busy exploring other aspects of the game. In other words, you can expect a meaty experience, especially if you're eager to take a break from the plot. Voxel then asked Nate Fox whether Ghost of Tsushima can keep players busy for 30, 40, 50 hours, to which Fox simply said, yes, absolutely. He continued, I would highly recommend that everyone get off the main route and get lost in Tsushima Island. There's a lot to discover here. Now, I wanted to highlight this because I think this is a big question that people have with this game is, we know it's been in development for so long. How long can we expect this gaming experience to last? Now, I'm a firm believer in it doesn't matter how long a game is. If it feels like it's a quality experience, that game could be 8 hours long, that game could be 50 hours long, but if that quality experience remains consistent throughout, that's all that matters to me. I just want it to be a solid experience. Now, he's pretty much saying that you can easily rack up to 30 to 40 to 50 hours, and a big reason for that is because apparently in this game, they're going to really encourage, they're basically just saying it right here. They want players to feel encouraged to go explore this world and kind of get lost in it and experience a lot of the side content. Now, my only hope with this is that this stuff doesn't end up just feeling like meaningless filler. I hope that if they're gonna, encourage these side quests in such a big way as they're doing here, I'm assuming that it's because they're going to be pretty fleshed out and it's going to do a good job in making the world feel really alive, and you don't have to feel like the only way you can get that engaging experience is just by mainlining it, but that engaging experience can remain consistent as you decide to explore and discover and do those side quests. So either way, he's saying 30, 40, 50 hours. That sounds awesome to me. That gets me excited. This definitely seems like a world that you can get lost in for hours at a time, and I am very much looking forward to it. And to be honest, I am glad that there's seemingly a lot here to unpack because, as I said, Sucker Punch has been working on this game for quite some time, and it would just be a little bit disappointing if it was like, oh, you can beat it in 6 to 7 hours, right? Like, that would just be like, oh, geez. I mean, it would be, again, it would be great if it was a great experience, even if it is only 6 to 7 hours, but there's no doubt that at this point in time, especially with open world games and cinematic games, people expect just a little bit more, and it's good to know that apparently Sucker Punch is really, they've created an experience that can last many hours here. So moving on from that, I want to talk a little bit more about the size, scope, and scale of this game, because we have an interesting interview that was done with the creative director and art director, actually, of Ghost of Tsushima, Jason Connell, and he spoke to IGN kind of about like how big this world is and how much time they spent creating it, and how they're also apparently pushing their performance to the max here, which is pretty interesting as well. So he says here, it's a lot bigger than Infamous Second Son. It's definitely Sucker Punch's biggest game we've ever made by a landslide, both in the amount of stuff that's in it and also just sheer landscape square footage wise. Connell explained that the team often gets asked about Ghost of Tsushima's size in terms of length of completing the game, though he noted it's hard to pinpoint because completing can mean various things for people with open world games. Some people just play the story, and others want to find everything. The studio recognized this and worked to create a world big enough that has both of those opportunities. People that can just play the story, and people that can just go get lost in the environment. And as our few looks at the environment have shown, Ghost of Tsushima looks to be visually a beautiful adventure. Given that it's Sucker Punch's first full game since Infamous Second Son in 2014, one of the first-party games on the PS4, Connell explained how the studio has worked to push the hardware now, as currently the PlayStation 4's last first-party exclusive for the system. We've learned a ton, and we've just built on tech, and we have amazing technical rendering gurus at Sucker Punch. They've managed to pull out every little ounce of performance so that we could have our dream of making this game. You can see pretty far in the game as we've shown off, and that's not some fabricated thing with hacks. You can just get down from that mountain and go to those places. It's stunning what they've been able to pull off for us from a technical perspective. He continued, noting the combined work of the many different teams within the studio coming together to produce Tsushima. That work has gone into producing the ambitious island of Tsushima, inspired by the real-life location, though set hundreds of years ago. Connell explained that while the team sought to honor and respect the real-life setting, the in-game landmass is pretty much geographically the same shape as the real-world Tsushima. It's not meant to be a one-to-one recreation, especially given the settings period. When it comes to some of the biomes and places that you go to, it's so long ago, there's not a perfect map of forestry of what was there, Connell said, noting Sucker Punch's similar approach with Second Son to capture the essence of Seattle without necessarily recreating it building by building. One of the biggest aspects in creating this open, engaging space involved making the many areas of Tsushima artistically unique. As Connell pointed to the golden forest seen on the horizon during Tsushima's State of Play, Connell didn't offer an exact number of the distinct regions, but counted the giant fields showcased at Tsushima's last E3 reveal, a bamboo forest, a swamp-like area, and more among Ghost of Tsushima's biomes. We try really hard from an art direction perspective to make each area feel distinctively different and try not to muddy things up. And while that may feel a little bit loud, when you approach it, it feels very memorable. I can remember where it is. I can see it from everywhere on the island. And that's important to us because the island's big, and so we're not putting markers all over the place, so you have to come up with other visual anchors to keep your directionality intact. As for whether players can explore the entire island from the start, Connell remained coy on exactly how much would be available to explore, but from the sound of it, Tsushima will focus players in on Jin's story first before opening the wider world. As a story as big as ours and a game as big as ours, it is incredibly important to us that people understand Jin's journey first. It's a lot to take in. So the first part we want to do is make sure that you understand who he is, what's happened to the island. So there's a little bit of a setup. It's really important to do that before we just open the floodgates. But then once you get to that point, it's pretty much open. So I know that was a lot to take in, and to me, what I'm getting from this is that this is a very big game. The island, and it was also confirmed, by the way, that small portion we saw of the map in the demo that was shown on State of Play, that was just a very small portion of the actual island, and it's going to be significantly bigger than that. And it does sound like it's going to be a very big world, but I really like what they're saying here about the artistic style of each area, and the reason why they're making it so distinctive is because they're not going to have a bunch of waypoints. We know that. We know they're not going to have a bunch of stuff on screen, and they're going to use that as just a natural visual way for people to kind of recognize, like, oh, I remember this area because this is what it looked like, right? And it almost seems like they're going to use the different biomes as a way and kind of maybe accentuate it a little bit in each area to kind of just make it that much more memorable. And to be honest, I'm really happy about that, because one of the things I was most impressed with when seeing this gameplay demo is just how unique and just how much each area just seems to pop, and I like from a visual standpoint, and I just really like that. So I really like the direction they're going in here. They're talking about really pushing the hardware to its limit, and I find this also interesting because the game just looks incredible, and you know that they've been working on it, as I said, for quite some time now, and even what they did with Infamous Second Son years ago looked very impressive. So it's going to be awesome to see what they're going to be able to do now, and this is going to be a massive world. It looks beautiful, so they're apparently just pushing it as far as they can go. The draw distances looked amazing, considering it's still just PS4 hardware, and it's overall it sounds like this is going to be an absolutely massive game, guys, and I honestly cannot wait for it. So this is where I'm going to end it, because there is actually a lot more Ghost of Tsushima information to go over. I just wasn't able to cram it all into a single video. I wanted to make sure I highlighted exactly what the developers are saying and how they're explaining this game, because I just think that they're clearly very passionate about it. You can tell this is a dream project for Sucker Punch, and you can just tell by the amount of time and effort that's going into this that they are hoping this is going to be the game that really just elevates them to that next level. And so I'm always interested to hear what the developers have to say. But look out for more Ghost of Tsushimas to come on the channel here, because we still have a lot more to talk about when it comes to combat and other things like that. So that's going to do it, guys. Let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. Leave the video a like if you did enjoy it or found it informative. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.